Hi everyone, welcome back. I am Dr. Prabjot Singh. I am a graduate of Yerevan State Medical University, Armenia, currently pursuing my post graduation in the field of anatomy from AIMS Jodhpur. So, today we are going to talk about the external ear from ENT point of view. We are going to talk about the anatomy of the external ear, focusing on the MCQs for the various exams. So, let's begin. This is again a revision video focused on INICET, FMGE, NEET PG. Before I proceed, I want to tell you about a big disclaimer that medical education is ever changing. What we know today will change tomorrow. Those again will change day after. So as of today, this is the latest information. So ear is basically external auditory meatus basically is present in temporal bone. Temporal bone has certain parts: squamous part, petrous part, tympanic part. Also has mastoid. So squamous part is thinnest part of skull. Then you need to know about external auditory meatus. Its boundaries, basically not the boundaries, but how is it formed. So this is superior, inferior, anterior, and posterior. So anterior inferiorly it is formed by this thing, tympanic part. Posterior superior it is formed by squamous part. So this mastoid. So coming on to the petrous part first. Petrous is the hardest. Squamous is the softest. It is hardest. It basically forms your middle ear and inner ear, as well as mastoid antrum. So the thing over here is mastoid is not forming mastoid antrum, but petrous is forming mastoid antrum. Remember that mastoid is spongy in nature. It's a spongy bone, also known as cancellous. Mastoid is not itself a bone separate, but it's a part of tympanic. Okay. Next, another thing that you need to know is about mastoid tip. Mastoid tip is absent at birth. That is, it starts to develop at 2 years, goes on to develop up till 18 years of age. So the thing is, you have your stylet process, you have your mastoid process, and in between you have your facial nerve CN7. Okay, so this is your medial, this is your lateral. Since you do not have mastoid tip in kids, so the cranial nerve 7, the facial nerve, is directly exposed to environment. Hence, it can easily get injured. Easily gets injured. Let me write properly for you guys. Easy to get injured. Okay, because it is not prevented by mastoid tip. Hence, when we are performing any surgeries, this is your ear or external ear, the pinna. So behind this we have your mastoid, and over here we have your CN7. This is a rough diagram that I'm showing. So what happens is, since as I mentioned that in children mastoid tip is absent to prevent this CN7, it's actually like this. So for any kind of surgeries in children, we perform a straight incision like this, whereas in adults we perform a curvilinear incision like this. Because in kids we'll perform a curvilinear incision, mastoid tip is absent, and hence the cranial nerve 7 of the facial nerve can get injured. Okay, so this curvilinear incision is known as William wide incision, whereas the one that is performed in children is simply called horizontal. Okay, so now coming on to antrum. What is mastoid antrum? Mastoid antrum is most consistent mastoid air cell. Mastoid antrum is developed at birth. Don't get confused between mastoid antrum and the mastoid tip. Now, how will you identify this? How will you identify the fact that where is mastoid antrum? For that, you need to know about something that is known as McEwan's triangle. Okay, it is also known as suprameatal triangle. That is McEwan's triangle or suprameatal triangle. Now, how will you draw or locate this thing? This question came in my FMGE exam. I wrote FMGE December 2018. So McEwan's triangle is basically from the, you will extend the temporal line basically from the this thing, zygomatic process of the temporal will be extended backwards. So this is your temporal line, and then you will draw a line perpendicular to it that will be posterior to externality meatus, that will be at a right angle. Then you will draw an imaginary line connecting them, connecting line. Okay, so this is your McEwan's triangle. This is McEwan's triangle, and mastoid antrum is 1.25 centimeters below it. This is itself an MCQ. McEwan's triangle and mastoid antrum, how far are they from each other? Now coming on to the pinna and its development. Pinna basically develops from 6 bulges, also known as your 6 axon hillocks. How? This is your, these are how your 6 bulges are going to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you can see that the first one will form your tragus, and second to fifth will form your rest of pinna. So they need to unite with each other over here. If they won't unite, then what will happen? Then that will lead to a formation of a defect that is known as preauricular sinus. Okay, so this is important, the preauricular sinus, because you'll find many cases the patient will come with the fact in some cases these sinus or fistulas internally collected with somewhere or something. So you need to be very careful about that. So basically, yeah. So basically, the development of the pinna starts at 6th week of intrauterine life from first and second arches. These arches form 6 bulges, and those bulges they form tragus and rest of pinna. Okay, now we'll find that some people, some kids, they have small external ear, small pinna, or the pinna is absent. So those conditions are known as microtia or anortia. Microtia, or that other one is anorossia. Microtia means small pinna, anorossia means no pinna. So So in this case, we do a surgery, a plastic surgery, which is named as otoplasty. Remember that otoplasty is construction of external ear, external pinna, not the ear ossicles. Okay. Now there is another term, myatoplasty. Myatoplasty is surgery that is done in order to widen the EAC, widen the external auditory canal or external auditory meatus. This is done for the widening, not for the pinna. Okay. So coming back to otoplasty, at what age is it done? It is done at an approximate age of 6 years. Now, why 6 years? Why not at the age of 1 year, 2 year, or why not later on in life? So the question over here is that pinna attains adult size at 6 years of age, so that we can measure the size of the contralateral normally developed pinna and can perform the plastic surgery in order to make the pinna of the equal size. Because if you will do it earlier than the age of 6 years, the contralateral pinna will further grow on to develop and increase in size, but the pinna that has been created with the help of the plastic surgery will not increase in size, and hence after the surgery, patient will feel that after attaining 6 years, patient will feel that the pinna on which I have got the surgery done is still small. So it makes no sense to do it before the age of 6 years. Second reason is obviously for plastic surgery we need a graft. So in this case we take a graft from ribs, from the cartilage of the ribs. Okay, so we take, so these ribs cartilage, they also mature at age of 6 years. So that's again a reason why approximate age of 6 years is the best answer. Obviously you can take it as a range of 5 to 7 years for MCQs. Now we'll talk about the nerve supply of the external ear. We'll talk from both the sides, from the lateral side as well as from the medial side. This is how it is. So this is from the lateral view and this is your medial view. This is your root. This is your choana. Okay, so how you are going to divide the nerve supply? You will divide it like upper 2/3, sorry, it will go like this. It will go like this, upper 2/3, barring the choana, lower 1/3. So this upper 2/3 will be supplied by auriculotemporal nerve, but this lower 1/3 will be supplied by greater auricular. Okay, now coming on to the back side. At back side we'll again divide it like upper 2/3 and lower 1/3. Upper 2/3, lower 1/3. Lower 1/3 will be again supplied by auriculotemporal nerve in the medial aspect, whereas the upper 2/3 it will be supplied with the help of lesser occipital nerve medially. I am talking about the sensory supply. Okay, now we are left with the choana and the root. They are basically supplied by cranial nerve 7th and 10th, that is your facial nerve and vagus. Now coming on to external You need to know that the anterior wall of external auditory canal is deeper. Also, you can say that the floor and anterior wall, they are deep because the tympanic membrane is attached at an angle. Okay, so you need to know that the EAC, it develops from it develops as a cartilage. Okay, leave it. Cartilage, I was about to tell you about the cartilage 1/3 2/3 thing. I'll come to it very soon. Don't worry about it. I'm not leaving it. I'll come to it very soon. Because I just mentioned earlier about incisura terminalis. And the second thing is your lobule of the ear. These two are the structures where cartilage is absent. अब cartilage नहीं है तो क्या है? If no cartilage, then what do we have over here? We have skin along with fat. So at incisura terminalis and the ear lobule, the cartilage is absent. Now I'll come on to that cartilaginous part and the bony part that I was talking earlier. So this is your external auditory canal that opens. So over here you have two openings. Those are known as this one. The first one is known as fissure of Santorini. The second one is known as the fissure of Hashke. The outside one is Santorini. You can remember it by a weird Hindi mnemonic. That is, जो संत लोग होते हैं, you must have seen in the movies, all these pandits and the babas, they usually pray and get enlightened under the tree. So remember that Sant people, they sit outside under the tree. So fissure of Santorini is the outer one. Okay. Coming back to this diagram, we will divide it in outer 1/3, inner 2/3. So let's take it. This is your outer 1/3. This one is your cartilaginous, and this one is your bony. So the question comes: cartilaginous part has which fissure, and the bony part has which fissure? Along with that, you will study more about it in Dharma. That the cartilaginous parts, it has some glands. These are your sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands, also known as your ceremus glands. Okay, and then the fissure of Santorini is in the anterior wall, whereas fissure of the Hashke is in anterior inferior wall. So over here, what are your MCQs? Where are they located? Outer 1/3, outer 1/3, inner 2/3. About the ceremian glands, the total length of the canal is 24 mm. So it is divided like this is going to be your 8 mm and this is going to be your 16 mm. So outer 1/3 is your 8 mm and inner 2/3 is your 16 mm. And coming on next, these both fissures connect the EAC with parotid. Hence the infection can spread in both the directions, from EAC to parotid as well as from parotid to EAC. Now when a patient is coming to you and you need to check its external auditory canal, so you will see that external auditory canal is not a straight line, but in order to visualize whole of it, you need to bring it into a straight line by pulling a pinna in certain direction. Now what is that direction? It is different for adults and different for kids. For adults, it is simple blue but without E. that is backwards, lower, also you can say downwards. Oh, sorry. L is not for the lower, that we do for the kids. L is for the lateral, backwards, lateral, and upwards. Whereas for the kids, it is again going to be backwards, laterally, but instead of upwards, it's going to be downwards. Okay, so remember these directions. These directions are again asked simply as an MCQ. Now we'll talk about the sensory nerve supply of the EAC. Firstly, we talked about EAM. Now we'll talk about EAC. This is your roof of EAC. This is your floor. This is anterior. This is your posterior. Okay. So remember that the anterior part and the roof is supplied by auriculotemporal nerve. The floor and the posterior wall is supplied by Arnold's nerve, also known as Elderman nerve. Elderman is from A, not from E. Okay, Elderman nerve. So these are coming from your cranial nerve 10, whereas auriculotemporal nerve is coming from your cranial nerve 9. Now there is some part that is your posterior superior part, superior posterior part. This is supplied by facial nerve, sensory part of facial nerve. So three nerves, they supply the EAC, auriculotemporal, Arnold's nerve, and your facial nerve. Now you need to remember about two quadrants. So basically, this is where your tympanic membrane is present, also known as the medial end of the external ear or the external auditory canal. So I'll divide it into four quadrants. For one is where I am going to tell you about cone of light, and the second one is where syringing is done. Now what is syringing? Syringing is basically a procedure that is done in order to remove the ear wax. Some of you might have experienced it, like you went to an ENT doctor and he says that he needs to clean your ears, and with the help of that water jet, he or she, the doctor, they clean your ear. So the cone of light falls at which quadrant, and syringing, it is done focused at which quadrant? Syringing is done focused at this quadrant, that is your posterior superior, whereas cone of light falls exactly at its opposite, that is your anterior inferior. So in order to summarize, you can say that these are your quadrants. Over here you have your cone of over here you have your syringing, and over here you have your cone of light. Okay, easy. So in this video I'm just going to talk about the external ear, and for the middle ear I'll be making a separate video because otherwise it will be too long. So for the external ear we're left with very few things. Coming on to one clinical aspect. While syringing, you must have seen that, if some of you those who have underwent syringing, you must have noticed that you cough while syringing. Why this cough is taking place? Why you're having the irritation in your throat? It is because of this nerve, vagus, because vagus is the longest of all the cranial nerves. It goes up to the level of your abdomen, and it also reaches the level of your throat. So it has a branch that is also in the throat, and has a branch that is supplying the EAC, that you have already seen, the Elderman nerve. So this nerve is responsible for cough while syringing. Also in anatomy you will learn at various places that vagus is present in the middle. Vagus is present in the middle. For example, in the jugular foramen, we have cranial nerve 9, 10, 11 passing in the order. Vagus is in the middle. सो there's a easy mnemonic, बीच में है जो वो बदनाम है, वेगस बदनाम है. So you can also link that up over here, that Vegas is causing the cough. So Vegas बदनाम है इस चीज़ के लिए भी. Now coming on to tympanic membrane. The important interesting fact about tympanic membrane is it is formed from all three germ layers. All of you must be knowing that we have three germ layers: endoderm, mesoderm, and what's the third one? Third one is your ectoderm. So all these three germ layers, they form tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane is an only structure that is formed from all three germ layers. Now how do these germ layers they participate? Tympanic membrane is formed from all three germ layers, we know that now. So the endoderm, it is forming the mucosal part. The fibrous part is formed by mesoderm, and the epithelium is formed by your ectoderm. Now you need to know how does the middle ear look like in an intact tympanic membrane when you pull the EAC in blue, that is backwards little upwards, how it looks. So for that I'll draw a diagram in order to explain you. This is basically an outer boundary that I have drawn. So this is your first ear ossicle, the malleus. So the malleus is dividing into two parts, upper part and the lower part. Upper part has something known as like this. This is known as your notch of Renaeus. Notch of Renaeus. Okay. And you can also, like I have told, this is your malleus. So this is your anterior malleolar fold. This is your posterior malleolar fold, and this is your lateral process of malleus. This is your tip of malleus. So inside it you have a structure. This structure is known as annulus tympanicus. This is basically fibrous in nature, and this structure is present in a fossa. The lower part is in a fossa, not a fossa, sorry, better to call it a sulcus. This is known as sulcus tympanicus. Basically it is a depression, that's why we are not calling it a fossa as such, we are calling it a sulcus. So since over here we have this fibrous part, in this part we have this fibrous part, let me take blue color. So this is known as your pars tensa due to fibrous part, and this is known as pars flaccida. So with that I come to the end of this short video. This was about your external ear. Feel free to contact me on my Insta, that goes by my name by putting an S in front of it, S Prabjot, on my Insta. I hope you like this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll be coming up with more medical videos about a few vlogs about my life, about my PG life. So keep watching, keep liking, keep supporting. Thank you.